everyone to join in at 4. So we are almost at around 52 participants now. And as and when the people keep joining, I request, and I don't want the people who have already joined to be late here. And we will be starting as communicated at the same time at 4 o'clock. And first of all, thank you so much, Sheshadri. I know, so you are coming from a very strong FMCG industry, which is, and I hope that there will be plenty of questions on how to analyze the financial statements in FMCG companies, not only with respect to the recruitment perspective, but also from the financial statement analysis perspective and the various metrics which we kind of see. Sangeeta, over to you. If you can give a small introduction about Sheshadri, and then we can take up the session. And again, guys, whatever questions are there, please put up in the Q&A window, and we'll also unmute some of them where you can directly interact with Sheshadri and you can ask your questions as well after our initial kind of presentation of around 30 to 35 minutes. Thank you so much, Sheshadri, for coming here. And we are glad to kind of have you here as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to our speaker, Mr. Sheshadri Sawalgi, and also thank each and every one of you for being here with us today for this webinar on industry perspective. What does an organization look for while hiring a finance professional? Mr. Sawalgi is currently working as Director Finance at General Mills. He is a leader with more than 15 years of experience in global MNCs in FMCG and beauty industry. He has a rich experience in complex and diverse roles in supply chain finance, FP&A, commercial finance, country finance management, change management, M&A, and growth strategy. He is a BCom Honours graduate with CA, CMA, CGMA. Prior to General Mills, Sir worked with Johnson & Johnson, Coty, P&G, and Tata Motors. Apart from this, Sir has also personal interest in traveling and trekking, etc. So I will speak on the topic for about 30 to 35 minutes. Meanwhile, you guys can put your questions in the chat box. Thank you so much, sir, for taking out time from your busy schedule. Now I'd like to hand over you the webinar.
Thanks, Sangeeta. Hello, everyone. I think thanks, Shipal, as well. I think this is a good opportunity for me to interact with young aspirants as well. So the way I would want to manage the flow is maybe I'll just talk about a couple of minutes about me, my journey, maybe what you don't see in LinkedIn or in the common profile. So I have been working in FMCG for a long time. I guess P&G, J&J, Coty, General Mills. And one of the things which I pride upon is I have my journey has been throughout different. I have stayed in different multiple locations across India. So I'm basically from Bangalore, and there is a reason why I'm saying this. So I'm basically from Bangalore. I was born in Salem. I have stayed a couple of years in Sikandrabad, and then I did my CA from Baroda. From my job, I was based out of Lucknow, Jamshedpur, Pune, Baddi, which is near Chandigarh, and now I'm based in Mumbai, right? For a brief time, I was in Singapore, but that's been my journey. And so I have done various finance roles. So the way I would like to structure this discussion is, first I would give a brief in terms of what are the different types of finance roles which you will find in FMCG or a manufacturing concern, and then what are some of the parameters which the organization uses to evaluate. Then we will slightly move into what are some of the things which an organization expects from a finance professional when they are hiring, what are some of the skill sets they find. And lastly, I also want to cover a bit of what are some of the action steps which you can do to enhance your skill sets or to enhance your capabilities and potential. Because when I was a CA 15 years back, when someone would come and say ownership or leadership, for me it would be a very intangible concept, because I wouldn't know what is the thing which I need to do to say maybe like at least demonstrate that I have that ownership, I have that leadership and stuff like that. So maybe I can basis my experience. So some of the things which have worked for me, so I can share some of the things which you can do to ensure that you increase your capabilities and potential, right? So going on to the different types of roles which we find in manufacturing. See, so broadly, if I were to put finance into two buckets, I would put it as a co-piloting bucket and a custodian bucket. Now, when I say co-pilot, it is more of driving business, working with business, for business, uh, and there are various roles or sub functions within the co-piloting piece. So one would be financial planning and analysis. One would be commercial finance, which is more sort of say sales finance profile. Then there is supply chain, the entire supply chain piece, including logistics. There could also be purchase finance, which can be categorized within the supply chain finance rules. There are some companies where big companies have a specific forecasting role as well, where the person consolidates across various portfolios and then shares a common view to the management. So this is the co-piloting sort of bucket, and these are some of the sub-functions. A leader of a co-pilot would generally be a CFO of the organization, because he, in the sense, would handle end-to-end of the entire finance function and would from even from a strategy standpoint. So that is the co-piloting piece. If I were to move to the custodian piece, it is so broadly there are four buckets. Custodian would mean they would take care of end-to-end reporting, be it US GAAP, Indian GAAP, the end-to-end reporting piece of it, taxation, direct, indirect, all the back-end processes, so order to cash, AP, AR. So he would own that piece as well, and controls or stewardship. So this is the custodian. A leader of a custodian would be generally a controller of an organization. Controller is actually a loosely used term in the industry, but uh, I would say finance controller would broadly have these responsibilities, and these are some of the functions which sub functions which you can get into and then grow within the organization. Then there are a range of corporate corporate sort of roles, which is treasury, M&A, other corporate sort of functions, and this would be generally centrally based. And as you tend to grow within an organization, if it is an MNC, then you will get into regional roles. Regional roles again could be within co-pilot or custodian, and that's how broadly the entire say FMCG finance roles are structured, right? Uh, One of the things which I think is worth talking is in terms of what are the three things which um, is required either to say to get promoted, or what are the things where the organization sees or evaluates on. See, one is from a performance standpoint. When I say performance, it means are you so if there is a particular level, say level one, are you do you have the skill sets to perform the job at that level? You should be you should have the skill sets, and you should be ready to manage the responsibilities that particular role requires. The reason I potential is quite important, and it is not very intuitive that the organization sees potential. So the reason why every organization actually sees potential, and let me first clarify what do I mean by potential. So if they're hiring, if any organization is hiring at level one, they would want to see that you have the skill sets to perform that role, but they would want to see that you have the potential to move up to level three, one up. That is the sort of potential they expect, because the end of the day, when you join any organization, you will be the future leaders in the organization. You will be growing through the organization. You will have people reporting into you. So you need to demonstrate that you have that potential within you to move up the ladder. The third is in terms of availability. You can have performance, very strong performance. You can have potential, specifically in case of promotions, etc. There needs to be availability of roles as well, and this is something which actually is not in our control. So I think as individuals, as professionals, we need to focus on performance. We need to focus on our potential, and as and when the availability comes up, we need to be there to take up the opportunity. Right. So let me sort of move ahead. So now I have laid out some of the skills. So by no means these are exhaustive list of skills.
Shesha, just a second. Actually, they are not able to see your slides. Is what? So, guys, are you able to see the slides which are being presented? Okay, they are not able to see the slides.
Just hold on. Are you able to see now?
Yeah, now the first slide, second slide. Oh, but I thought they are able to see the slide. Just
No
thank
issues.
Purvi actually, guys. Please let us know if you are not able to see the slides or anything. Is it? Can you see
I
now?
hope it's visible now.
Yeah, I think now it's visible. Sangeeta, just keep monitoring. No, keep asking people if they are not able to see or anything.
Yeah, sure, sir.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So this is the slide which I talked about, the co-piloting piece and the custodian piece, just to sort of reiterate what you couldn't see on the slide, and the three say parameters where the organization evaluates an individual: and the performance, potential, and availability. All three need to be there for the hiring to take place. Right. So I will move ahead. Got it. So now I want to cover a bit in terms of what are the skills, what is the um, capabilities which an organization looks in when they hire a finance. So, say I'll broadly classify this into two buckets. So, if you see, I have classified one as a threshold competency, and when I say threshold competency, is see that any finance core, say domain knowledge, technical knowledge, everything is a given. So when an organization wants, and let me tell you, so any interview process, it happens for what, 2 years, 2 hours, 3 rounds. It can go up to 5 rounds or 8 rounds. But the organization will never be able to judge your technical capability, what the institute does for 3 years or 4 years or 5 years. So when we want to hire an finance professional, we assume that they are technically sound because they are CAs, CPAs, CMAs, and that's the educational background which the individual comes with. Another threshold competency which is not say black and white is the communication skills. So there is an expectation of base level of communication skills which you need to have. And it is required to work within a team. It is required to be vocal about your point of view. It is required to ensure that you are able to perform in your job well, right? So these are the threshold competencies. Now, and given today's world, there will be a range of folks who will be above this say threshold competency, and then how do you stand out within the competition? So let me sort of give talk about say 30 seconds on each of the skills which I have listed here. The first piece is leadership behavior. Now leadership behavior is, and I would say visible leadership, because both the things are slightly different. Now, for as a fresher without without say corporate experience, you still can share examples of demonstrating visible leadership. It could be in a range of activities. You could have led auditing. You could, even from your articleship standpoint, you could have uh, been, say, a member or a leader of a Rotary club. Any sort of leadership experience. So always uh, look out for experiences where it gives you an opportunity to lead and where you are able to articulate it as an example. Because I believe that as you get more and more experiences, you tend to get better at such things. So one is that once you get into a job, then there are various areas where you can demonstrate visible leadership. And a leader is not the it's not the only person who actually has a team and is a leader of individuals. You can demonstrate leadership behavior at every level, right from at the starting level till you are sort of overall business leader. The second piece of thing which an organization looks for is ownership, drive, self motivation, and stuff like that. And see, these words are very cliche, right? You tend to hear a lot of such things. So, what do we mean when we say ownership? See, the first thing is you need to work on yourself in terms of building your capabilities. For that, first you need to understand what your strengths are, what are the areas which you need to improve, and you need to take ownership of your career, of your potential. Because if you don't show ownership on yourself, then frankly, from an organization standpoint, expecting that you will show a lot of ownership within the organization, uh, the probability is less, and hence you will need to share examples, or it's a good case where you are able to show that these are some of the things which I have done to enhance my skill sets. This was the starting point. Everyone has a different starting point, be it anything, be it communication, be it even domain knowledge. Everyone has a different starting point. There could be somewhere who could be very good in communication, but then it's a journey which you do. Right? So, from ownership and self motivation standpoint, so that is what the organization looks. And so there are ways where the organization judges these things or tries to evaluate you. So, like one of the questions which generally is asked is, give me an example where you had to come out of your comfort zone. How did you approach it? Now, this is a very open-ended question, right? One, you need to be clear. You can't if you have not articulated this within your head, then it would be very difficult for you to convey it effectively to the interviewer or the organization. So there will be such questions or examples which the interviewer or the organization will ask in order to see that have you have you taken that ownership, were you proactive, did you self-analyze, did you address uh, what is required, so those kind of things. Now, the third piece is business knowledge and partnering. And let me sort of tell you. So, see, finance knowledge is not equal to, say, business knowledge, right? For example, so finance is a subset of any particular business. Now, business knowledge is what is your understanding on, say, end-to-end value chain. So, if I were to look at it, starting from raw material till the time it reaches a consumer, you will find various stakeholders within that. So starting point could be say one raw material, and ending could be in the hands of consumer. It actually doesn't end there, but uh, let's sort of limit. So you could have a range of things which you should know. For example, there could be multiple channel preferences. There is modern trade, traditional trade, e-com. Each product will have its own natural leaning towards, or say salience towards a particular channel. Uh, there could be pricing strategy, whether you want to play it niche or make it a value proposition. So there are various strategies as such. There are various channel preferences. There are different way where you can go to market, where you can either reach through a distributor. What is the distributorship model? So there are various number of say business nuances which you won't actually get in any of the say technical education sort of thing. So these are some of the things which you will have to gain. You can work towards it. Definitely, you can work towards understanding. Say, just go with if you actually hear the presentation of any of the listed MNCs, say Unilever, and you will get a good idea about what is the thinking, what are the new launches they have done. So all this business knowledge piece is you will be able to stand out if you can demonstrate that you have had good business knowledge, you have good business knowledge, and you are working towards enhancing your business knowledge. Because this is not something which is taught in books. It is something which you observe, which you gain, and which you gain insights from. Right. The fourth thing is in terms of strategic and analytical mindset. So one of the things is in terms of, do you have that analytical mindset? Do you have that strategic outlook where you think long term? So see, business is so you can be tactical about some areas of business, but generally you need to be strategic about a large areas of business. So, and you will be in that position where you will be taking decisions on behalf of the company. So you need to have that analytical mindset or strategic mindset where you are able to demonstrate that mindset. Right. So these are some of the areas where an organization wants or they will sort of evaluate you. The next thing is collaboration and people management. Now, this is extremely important, right? And so if I were to talk about myself, so see, till I did my CA, so even after my major part of my interaction, a major part of working with a team, apart from the articleship experience, was majorly when I joined corporate, right? And you need to be self-aware in terms of how comfortable are you in terms of working with a team. What is your style? So there are many things which you need to be aware about yourself in order to uh, give a or in order to demonstrate this behavior to an organization. For example, one of the things which we generally ask is, how do you manage a conflict? So give me an example where you have had a conflict with your peers or with your superiors or with your multifunctional partners. Give me an example and how did you approach it? So these are some of the things which we would want to know, right? So and hence thinking on those lines will first help you articulate your strengths, your weaknesses. This is some of the things with this. The next is do the right thing. So now this is something which I have lived with. So always do the right thing. No shortcuts. Shortcuts never work. Never work. Even if they work in short term, they will never work in long term, and you will end up paying much more than whatever you have gained in the short term. So always do the right thing and be clear on the integrity piece. We are the custodians of and we are the stewards of the organization, right? And we are expected, one, to do the right thing and to ensure that there is a strong control environment within the organization across. So finance needs to ensure that, right? So and hence this sort of behavior will help. I think the last two is think and act decisively. Now, think and act decisively. See, the given that you are all at the say start of your career in students in final. So one thing I would urge you to do is to be vocal about your point of view. See, as you grow in an organization, you are actually paid to share your point of view and help take decisions. So when we say think and act decisively, not taking any decision is also a decision, right? It's not a there's nothing right and wrong. It depends on the situation, but you need to be vocal about your point of view. You need to be able to influence effectively in terms and move the discussion or the organization in the right direction. And that thing is what an organization will require a finance person to do. The last thing is emotional quotient, or I would also uh, say to simplify it further, or a dumbed down version is to actually have that maturity and display that maturity. See, as CS, I think we are all young when we start our careers, right? So I have seen CAs 21, 22. I think I started at 23. So they are pretty young. But then you need to have that. You need to demonstrate that you are balanced in terms of you are able to judge a situation. You are able to maintain that. You can show empathy. So all those sort of behaviors you will need to develop, because you will be using that in your career. So as soon as your corporate career starts, so these are some of the things, skill sets which you will use. All the technical understanding, uh, those are given. So you will be using that, but then the effectiveness of all your domain knowledge will depend on all these skill sets as to how effectively and you are able to gain all the skill sets. Should I move ahead? Any questions?
So we'll take up the questions at the
In the last?
last. Yeah.
Got it. So, so let me so these are some of the things which I think if these are some of the actions which you could all undertake, which would help develop your capabilities. And maybe, and again, so these could so all these are cliches. I think you would have heard all this or seen somewhere some of the things which are mentioned here. But let me give you say a couple of instances what I've seen through my career, maybe a couple of incidents which should help this. So I think the first thing is think big and think unrestrained. And what do I mean by what do I mean by thinking unrestrained? Now let me share an analogy which I think sort of explains the context here. Now, as an analogy, I'm not sure. So, do you guys know how, say, all the elephants are trained. So a baby elephant, whenever it is trained, so it is, you will see a rope which is tied to one of its leg, right? Now it tries to get free from that for a long time. After trying for many number of times, it gives up. As soon as it gives up, as it starts to grow, you will find that adult elephants, there is a rope which is tied to the leg with a small piece of wood. The elephant can easily gain freedom, get out, do whatever it wants. The reason why it doesn't do that is because one, it has stopped trying, because there is a mental barrier within the elephant that it can't free itself from that barrier, right? Now the reason this example, which I feel sort of is applicable here, is in our case, I think the rope is whatever has happened in the past. Whatever has happened in the past, be it say number of attempts, be it not doing an articleship in Big Four. So we CAs, or we have our own mental barriers, and I have seen this. It was there during my time as well. I'm not sure if it is. So there was a separate, what do you say, untold pyramid sort of. So all India rank with Big Four experience, all India rank, first attempt with Big Four experience, number of attempts, and all such kind of things. The first thing you will need to do is remove all that and throw out of the window. Because whatever, so even if you have had, say, if you have taken number of attempts, doesn't mean that you can't get, or you can't have a all India ranking CA final. Because see, any of your past you should use as a starting point, not to draw boundaries. And many of us, at the start of the career, or even as we progress, reference our past to draw boundaries within ourselves. If you yourself don't believe that you can get a all India rank, then definitely you won't get an all India rank, right? Because you yourself are not. And the next step is, once you think of and say rank, then you will see that, okay, what does all India rank mean? Maybe it means that you need to get 75%. What does 75% mean? What is the level of efforts you need to put? And then you will move towards that. Many a times I have seen students, and this is the difference in the mindset. Many a times I have seen students aiming for 50% and then falling short by 5 marks, 6 marks, and then getting into or having attempts. And one of the reasons is the starting point or the goal itself is to achieve 50%, which is the bare minimum. That should not be the goal. So the first thing which you need to do is to think big, because everything happens first within our head. Then we try to, and I'm a great believer in visualization, in thinking. So if you haven't read yet, so there is a book, very common book known as Secret. Just read it. Uh, so use your past as a starting point, and not to draw boundaries on your expectations, on your potential. Because of the fact that you're not first attempt doesn't mean that you won't land a good job. It is what you can develop a range of strengths, range of skills which any organization will value. And because if you actually see all the things which I talked in the previous say slide, you can develop that irrespective of whatever your educational background is. And one of the things where an organization sort of values, not to sort of discredit the amount of efforts, say All India rank would get, but one of the things an organization values is the mindset which a person would get, because you can't get an All India rank by chance, right? The person would have had that mindset to get that, say, that level of marks, be comfortable, be and sort of have that threshold in within, have a very high benchmark or threshold for each subject. So that is the approach or the mindset which the organization values. Not that the person is say 100% has a computer memory of all the accounting standards and stuff. That is not the reason why say a ranker or a first attempt is sort of preferred by some organizations. And so think big and think unrestrained. Don't let your past uh, govern what you can do or what you think your potential is, because it's much more. And believe me that I have seen various examples where I have seen folks with uh, say multiple attempts become CFOs, with rankers not doing so well within the corporate. Everyone has his own or her own journey, right? Just change that mindset. The second thing which I would urge all of you is to do a bit of self analysis, or reflect, do a bit of self reflection. And there is a reason as to why I say this. Now the reason why I mentioned, right, so I have been across, I've lived across various cities. uh, I know whatever 5 languages. I can understand Telugu, but I can speak Tamil, Kannada, Hindi, Gujarati, uh, and I think that it is a strength. What is a strength? Because I think that my understanding of various cultures, my exposure to different, uh, different cultures and different people in general during my journey as becoming a CA, is a strength. Because, and I think it's a strength which is unique to me. For you to realize that it is a strength, you need to first reflect on what your strengths are. There are many areas where I have found where I find that, uh, for example, communication. You need to be clear as to whether it is your strength. What are the areas where you need work? Is it, and it could be different things. It could be that you have your thoughts, but you're not able to articulate it well. It also could be that you are able to articulate it, but then you uh, use a huge number of words to articulate it, versus it being a concise, being crisp and concise. So there are various things which a person can improve on, and for that you need to be aware. So whenever there is always a standard question, right? We ask, "What? Tell me 3 strengths which you think you have." And for you to be able to share it, first you need to believe that these are the strengths. And everyone will definitely have some unique strengths, some unique, depending upon the situation, your upbringing, your educational background, your family background. You will have some unique things which you can either convert it into a strength. For that, you need to do that self reflection, do that self analysis, even on your improvement areas, and then work towards tangible, take some actions towards that. One thing which I want to highlight is write down your goals and aspirations. And I can't sort of stress this more. See, it is said that only 3% of individuals actually write down their goals and aspirations. And I have seen the benefits of writing down these goals and aspirations. See, all of you are pretty young at the start of your career, right? But if I were to ask, what is your goal, say, for next 30 years? Maybe there are folks who think of 2 years, 3 years, 10 years, but I would say go till 30 years. So have a view. Where do you want to reach? What are some of the milestones which you want to achieve by the time you hit 30, 40, 50? So by the time you hit 30, what is it you want? By the time you hit 40, what is it you want. By the time you hit 50, what is it you want to achieve. And don't think only from say career standpoint. Think from an overall level. What do you want to achieve on a personal level? What are the new experiences which you want to gain? uh, what is say the say office or career experiences which you want? What is the geographical landscape which you want to control in terms of your career? uh, is there any what is the sort of other interests which you want to develop? So there are various things which you can think, and once you take a pen and start to write it, you will realize that you have not even started to work on some of the things which you want. So you will find that you have aspirations, but then you haven't even thought in that direction. And maybe if you don't write it, you won't think on those lines for next 5 years or 10 years. So all of the things which I started to do. So one of the things which has worked very well for me is by the time I became a CA, I think that was the only thing which I had done. Uh, I was okay. I was into sports a bit here and there, but once into a CA, we start getting into that articleship and start studying for CA. That takes a backseat. Uh, I come from a say South Indian family, middle class family. So and I had not developed much of hobbies or interests or any area still by the time I completed my CA. Once I started to write my goals, my aspirations, some of the things which started to uh, take place is I found trekking to be very therapeutic and a very adventurous experience. I started to go for trekking. I started to go for running. Uh, I started to speak. I joined Toastmasters. And one of the things why I'm not sure if you guys know what Toastmasters is Toastmasters is a club for leadership and public speaking. It's I would recommend each and every one of you to join it. It has helped me personally tremendously to improve my communication, improve my even leadership and comfort level. Comfort level on being center stage, comfort level on having the spotlight. Because these are some of the things which will help you stand out in any areas of life. Once you get, the more you practice, the more you become comfortable, and uh, experiences like these will help you gain that skill set. So I would still, so if there is one key takeaway which I want all of you guys to have, I would ask you to write down your goals, aspirations. What are your strengths? What are the areas which you need to improve on? Write it down and revisit it every year. You will find that you have moved. Just for the fact that you have written down gives you a sense of are you moving far off from it, or are you moving towards or in a upward trajectory towards it. The third thing is in terms of business knowledge. So I talked about a bit in terms of having that business knowledge and some of the things which you can do. Do market visits, talk to retailers, take any product. And I would say as simple as that, take any product which you want. Take any particular shampoo, any FMCG product. Just if you see the pack, you will get to know where it is manufactured. It will have a manufacturing whatever. It will have the company name. It will have the manufacturing location. So try to analyze a end-to-end value chain of that product. As simple as that. Try to see what is the uh, retailer margin for that product. And you can actually talk to retailers. You can talk to distributors. What drives that product? Does that product have high trade margins, or it requires high advertising spends to create for awareness to be created? What is the strategy of that product? So there are various things, various business knowledge which you can gain just by observing and being proactive and going to market and seeing it from a different lens. So when you are going to a DMart, see or try to understand what is the model of DMart, where what is the revenue model of DMart, what are the sort of, for that matter, any modern trade environment. How do they gain their revenue from? What is the sort of expenses they incur? How is it that one particular, say, modern trade customer is able to give a much higher level of discount versus other? How do they manage it? What is the difference between, say, the e-commerce and a modern trade? What is the value chain of an e-commerce uh, company? So these are some of the things which you need to be proactive about, and you will gain a lot if you are observant and try to take that first step to learn a lot of this, because all this you will not get in black and white in the education which we study. These all you will tend to gain over experience, uh, and if you can gain it now, why wait for that long time experience which you want? The fourth thing is, I would say, have a mentor. Now, within companies, this is a very common term. So there is mentorship, mentee, uh, and I did not have a mentor till I joined a company. Or even if I had, it was not a very. I did not know what I wanted from my mentor. So there could be two or three folks, experienced folks who I looked up to, whose opinion sort of I took, because I think they had a broader perspective of things. But then I myself was not clear on what is that thing which I want from a mentor. So first thing is, have a mentor. Reach out to seniors within industry, uh, and this is a good opportunity which I think, so you are having so much of leadership webinars where seniors from the industry are coming and reach out to them. uh, you will find, or you'll be pleasantly surprised that there are more chances than not they will encourage you to have a good discussions, gain from their experience, and you can always fall back upon them in terms of whether you want to take any decision. You can always take their point of view. You will be the one who will be taking the decision, but it needs to be a deliberate one, and it needs to be a well thought out one. So ensure that you have that mentor, and you are able to maintain that relationship with the mentor. The next thing which I would suggest is in terms of taking any opportunity to lead. I think any opportunity, be it sports, be it any delegation, be it even leading an audit team, try to maximize your experience from articleship. That's one thing which uh, personally I could have done better. On hindsight, we are always wise, right? Personally, I think there were many audits where the way my approach could have been much different. I could have started with thinking what is the revenue model for that company, having an overall business overview, and then getting into numbers, versus getting into numbers and not necessarily having an entire business overview of that company. So ensure that you take opportunity to be the leader, be the captain, whatever. Everything will help. Small instances will help, and you will realize it when you have that, you face that situation on job. The next thing I talked about, work on your communication. I think it's never enough. No one can say that they have reached the peak of effective communication. Right? Everyone is trying to improve, but You need, so there are various level of competencies within communication, and it is so important, because if you won't be able to work effectively, your perception matters a lot on how effectively you are able to communicate. And a lot of influencing also happens because you are able to articulate your points well and influence others, and that is very key. So work on your communication, and take tangible steps. Join Toastmasters, anchor something. So some of the things which I did was to anchor 3 or 4 hour sessions as soon as I joined one of my companies. And I'll tell you a sort of story behind it. So as soon as I joined, I was a new, say, recruit, got that dream job. We had an onboarding session. During that onboarding session, there was a, what do you say, a light-hearted ragging of all the new joinees. Within that, one of the things was to introduce yourself in pure Hindi, right? So, for example, even chartered accountant, you had to say in Hindi. If you were not able to, if you use any of English words, then you had to either dance or, in my case, given that I was from Bangalore, I had to dance to a Rajkumar song, and Rajkumar is a exterior hero of Kannada movies, and I would be more than embarrassed. I didn't have that. I was very uptight at that point in time. So somehow I wanted to uh, get out of uh, get out of this situation without having to embarrass myself. And I did manage to get out. I didn't know how to say chartered accountant in Hindi, but I did manage to get out of it by some or other means. So I said that, if I had to remember, I said that I see kharcha pani the plant of the plant location, or I took the name of that plant, and then I said, they keep asking me for kharcha, and I tell them go and have pani, something like that. People laughed and they let me go, so I did not have to do the dance. But then what it made me realize is that, and the reason why I was suddenly was overwhelmed in that situation is because I had never faced ragging in my entire life. There were close to 100 new joinees at that point in time across all functions. Almost 70% would be engineers. They had faced much worse ragging in their college life. Me being a CA, even in my graduation, we don't get ragged in BCom, right? So, not there. And CA, of course, we are not ragged. So, I was very sort of uptight in terms of handling the situation, but I was able to manage it. But then that made me realize that I had to work on. So, I was good at presentations and communicating in general and stuff like that. But I wanted to be good in holding center stage. For example, leading icebreaker within an offsite of a company, stuff like that. That was my sort of thing. So I worked towards that. So I anchored a 3 hour session in Toastmasters just to ensure that I have that experience of managing a large crowd. So you need to work on yourself. The reason why I'm saying this is, everyone will have different starting points, but work on yourself so that you keep on improving on what you have. The next is, I think, different. So let me try to finish it by 5. I think next 6 minutes. Different areas of interest. So one of the things which I think helps is, see, networking is, I think, very very important. Networking within the organization, outside the organization, within peers, within industry, everywhere. I think networking is important, and the way you can uh, grow your network is to develop different areas of interest. So I have a big group, and networking doesn't mean having, say, 1,500 or 2,000 connections in LinkedIn or in Facebook or Insta and stuff like that. Networking means, for me, can you have a conversation with the individual? Can you uh, mutually benefit or have that conversation. Will the person will give you a ear in terms of hearing what you are going through or what you want, or is it something which you can gain from that individual? That I would say is network, and hence develop that interest. So when I started doing half marathons, I developed close to 20-25 regular group of regular runners, and starting from, and it had range of folks. It had the CFOs of CEOs of companies. It had many friends who were working in different industries, who were in either marketing or some other functions and stuff like that. But then that enriched my network. When I joined Toastmasters, there were folks who were stand-up comedians who used to come to Toastmasters. That sort of gave me a big benchmark in terms of what you can do with your communication. Not versus restricting myself to only say finance, to only say corporate. There are a range of things which you can do by having a different mindset, right? The next is to see big picture, and when I say big picture, this is more from a understanding of even say technical terms. So, for example, understand the macroeconomics. Take a bit of have a global view. Many times, I think as CAs now we have to focus on India. For example, which are the, if I would say, top growing markets across Asia? Which are the top 4 emerging markets across the globe? What is their GDP? What is their growth rate? Which market has the biggest opportunity? You will find that India is talked as, in all the companies, it will always be one of the top priority markets. There is a reason to it. Uh, you need to know that reason. Why is India so uh, say looked at that this is the next biggest big opportunity? And apart from India, you'll find Brazil being there. You'll find macro outlook, understand the economics, understand management concepts and marketing concepts. So I'm not so so for you to understand entry barriers in a business. What are the entry barriers? Are there say even technical terms or technical or theories like Porter's diamond theory? I don't think that is you. We have an exposure to that. Try to read it. So try to read marketing concepts. Try to know what is awareness, what is reach, what is target audience, what is segmentation. All this, because you will need to know that for you to do a good analysis of, say, advertising campaign. Without knowing all this, it would be a very theoretical exercise. So try to understand and gain this concept and try to do it within your free time. Study for CA, but once you have given the exam, I think in the period, try to work on all these things, and you will be much ahead of competition. And I think last 2 minutes, maybe I'll talk about be hungry for new experiences. See, there is a reason why we say experience, right? Because even I think even I'm guilty of writing that. So 15 years of experience. 15 years is a period. It does not mean experiences. I can have a range of experiences in that 15-year period. Be hungry for new experiences. What it will do for you is it will help you broaden your comfort zone. It will push you out of your comfort zone. You won't be overwhelmed by new experiences. You'll find that suddenly there is a different way of looking at things. Travel, explore, do all, see the world. I am a big fan for traveling. I think as you explore more and more cultures, more and more countries, you will understand different the way they think at things, and it will also broaden your horizon and your mindset. So be have that global view on things, and then make a choice. So I think it's five. So these are some of the things which I wanted to talk about. Happy to take any questions.
Yes, sir, we'll take the questions. Jackie, please.
Hello, yeah. Just a minute. I think Hitesh Gupta wants to ask some question, I guess. So I will just unmute Hitesh Gupta. So he will ask the question. Hi Hitesh.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can ask your
Hi, how
question.
are you?
Hi,
Yeah,
Hitesh,
I'm
how are you?
fine.
Yeah, I'm looking. The question is that how to approach for senior finance leadership role, as most of the senior finance leadership role is fees confidentially. So, is any big consultant name you would suggest, or we want to change any the approach?
So, okay, if I were to understand your question, you want to know how to uh, get into a senior finance leadership role, given that it is confidential, right?
Yeah, right.
Got it. Okay, so now I'm assuming that if you want to get into a senior leadership role, you would have that, say, relevant experience, relevant skill sets, etc., to where you think you're fit for that role. I think one thing which has worked, right? So I have, if you see my career, I have moved a few companies. Uh, so one is definitely having a network of consultants, right? So what has helped me is I have a list of friends. I would not say a network, but I have friends who are consultants and which I have developed, say, maybe over the years. But not necessarily everyone would have that. Some of the things which I have found helpful is to be very active in be active on LinkedIn, have your profile updated. Because when actually I was in one of my companies, I hired looking. So I had a team. My HR team would hire looking at LinkedIn profiles, directly reaching out to candidates. So if you are not updated, then given lower the chances of you getting, say, shortlisted and stuff like that. The second thing is whatever profile you have a solid CV first. Ensure that you have your CV or take feedback on CV from any seniors or anyone who you think have a good understanding of the industry. Because many times I have seen that the CV is like the first impression, right? You either get shortlisted and or you don't. So have a first a good CV. Take feedback from a couple of spend time in preparing your CV, and then take feedback of a few folks. Ensure that you are updated on LinkedIn. I found stuff like Glassdoor and jobs, all these websites also helpful because there used to be a range of openings which would come in there. Secondly, develop a network of consultants. Last but not the least, have a good network of peers within the company. So many times in nowadays, not necessarily consultants will be the first one to get you information about the opening. The first thing which you'll get to know is, say, if a position has opened up, you will get to know by someone who is within working in finance of that company. That is how I have actually come to know many of the moves which I've done. I got to know from one of my friends that this position, the person, say, has moved on, so there this is opening. Then I would actually find out and be sort of focused in terms of how can I then, who do I need to reach out to ensure that my CV gets part of that, either it gets referred or it gets shortlisted and stuff like that. So there are a range of things which you need to do. I would say do all the things, because I personally have done all the things to ensure that I land the profile which I want.
So
Did I answer the question?
one more question. Like, do you have a network of consultant list who are actively looking for senior finance leadership role, which you can share with the audience?
So my my consultant friends would not like that, right? If I were to share that, see, I definitely I think of course I do have, and
Can I ping you post this seminar like on your LinkedIn so we can connect through?
see, I'll tell you this. So one, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, right? I don't promise that I will share. The only reason I say because sharing a list of consultants doesn't mean that they will forward your CV, right? They will all consultants, if they have a mandate, they will first actually look. They will have say 10 CVs, out of which maybe they will forward 3 if they think you are the right fit for the mandate. That's how it would work. So I can definitely share, but I don't think it would help. Having said that, I'm okay for you to reach out to me and we can have a offline discussion.
Yeah. There is someone named with iPhone. Who is this? Just a minute. Hi. Can I know your name? iPhone? Who is with the name of iPhone? Hello.
Maybe they want to be anonymous.
Yeah, they want to be anonymous.
No
They are
issues.
not answer. Okay, so I think
Go ahead with the question. If they want, they
anonymous.
can put in the chat box.
Okay, so if you want to, if you want to, if anyone wants to ask any question, please, if you feel free to drop in the chat box, or you can just raise your hand. Yeah, Anshul. Hello, Anshul.
Hello, am I
Yeah, you
audible?
can ask.
Yeah. Hi. Uh, I just want to ask that from the audit profile, how can we move to strategic profile that is for finance? Because there is a lots of areas in finance, and each and everything we are talking about it's finance. That is audit. That is your core finance, treasury, strategic finance, and all that. Then how can we move from audit area, that is the internal audit area, your forensic audit area types, to the core finance strategic teams in FMCG companies or in other corporates.
Alright. So I have
And
had this.
sorry to interrupt you. And in addition, if you have the big four experience like 1 to 3 years, after that it is possible to move in that area.
Okay. So I think good question. So I have had this question or this thing earlier as well. See, I think one, it's definitely possible for you to move from, say, audit or so. I would put it as say a custodian profile. So I talked about the custodian piece, right? So there are a range of things where, say, controls, say, internal audit, even for example, being not being part of industry, like big four experience. I have seen many get into the co-piloting side of things. Right? You can do it
Yeah.
two ways. You can do it two ways. One is to work on the things. So see, for the one of the things which we actually look for is business knowledge. When I say 3 years, so if I want to hire a 3 years experience in say FP&A, what do I look for? I look for my basic criteria would be that have that business understanding, business outlook, analytical mindset. These are the things which I actually look for. You will find that out of there are chances of getting shortlisted. I have seen folks getting shortlisted even with audit profile for uh, FP&A roles. The only reason why maybe they are not able to get the role is because of them not having the level of business understanding what is expected. So I have seen folks who have started from audit and who have grown like controllers becoming CFOs, auditors getting into FP&A. All those movements I have seen. One other thing is internal movement as well. So if you see MNCs or companies, there is a lot of movement within the company as well, where a person from audit can move to other profiles, but have that focus and reach out. I think there are definitely opportunities where the audit experience is valued. I've seen that I would be open. So in my hiring, I am open to consider, say, internal audit folks, provided they have that knowledge. See, internal audit, they have an end-to-end visibility of the processes.
Yes,
They
yes.
just need to see from a business lens. So if you are able to demonstrate that, then I have hired folks who are from the custodian to move to a co-piloting role.
Yeah, thanks for Yasan. But I want to add on that, like in a practical situation, if I have the experience of 2 years, 3 years of internal audit from the Big Four, and I want to move for the like some FMCG companies, corporate strategic profiles, basically, then I'm not able to demonstrate my skills regarding the business because I I uh, I never worked on that practically because
Say,
my core area is the process and all that. First point, and second is that how can I get my CV shortlisted there? Because they are my competition directly with the MBAs from the top-notch colleges at that time.
I agree. So I have been through that, right?
Because the
So
practical situation is that when you go for fight with the MBAs from the top-notch colleges as a CA, then
mm,
you can't
what is,
find
what is your
any area.
experience? What has
Actually,
been your experience?
I'm in EY from last 2 years for the forensic audit. So
Okay,
forensic is more or less like internal audit. So I consider the internal audit for the major case.
got it. So let me give my 2 cents of wisdom on this. So one, shifting from here to there, I think practically it will be an extreme switch if you want to move from internal audit directly to M&A or treasury, or even say FP&A co-piloting role. It's the gap is because there is a different set of expectation here, and there is a different say skill set here,
Yeah,
right? I
yeah,
would
yeah,
actually say to do it in 2 steps, where I have seen folks moving from ENY to say a controlling or custodian thing within MNC. So I wouldn't name companies, but there are MNCs where, for example, even reporting piece or anywhere, I think taxation could become very specific, but get into
yeah.
reporting and those kind of profiles in a FMCG. That is the first step. Once you are in
Okay,
that sort of profile, you can then jump towards a business finance role or towards a sales finance role. Because see, once you're within an organization, the movement keeps happening. So either person moves from
okay,
controllership to co-piloting, from co-piloting to controllership. The only folks who actually specialize or have depth is the taxation folks, because they need continuity. There are assessment
yeah.
requirements for
There is a
taxation,
totally different area.
right? So taxation is different. Otherwise, audit, reporting, they move from there to business finance to sales finance. So that movement happens. So
Okay,
first bridge that. So move from, say, I would suggest move from internal audit to say a reporting sort of role in an FMCG. Then move from there to here. I have seen multiple folks who have joined in say reporting or GIA, and I'll tell you, one of my ex bosses, CFO of Asia, started his career in internal audit of a
okay,
company, right? and I report to him. Even now, I report to him. So,
Okay.
so don't be swayed away by all this. And see, I have seen this comparison between MBAs, CAs, and stuff like that. Each we have our own strengths, and MBA has their own strengths. Right? We need to play. Our strength is technical knowledge. We need to gain
Yes, yes.
business understanding and communication. MBAs have a strength in terms of having a macro view, seeing the big picture, able to effectively communicate to the management because their approach is that, right?
Yes.
So both have their
That approach
strengths.
to the business.
Both have their strength, right? Maybe they speak the language of the management, right? But
Yes,
we'll need to
yes.
gain that. We'll need to gain that. So with experience, we'll definitely gain that. But for you to make that shift, go for controllership sort of role within an FMCG, and then move to a say co-piloting role. Otherwise, it's too drastic a change because even the organization needs to see that, right? For you to move,
Yeah.
make that shift. So that would be my advice.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for your words.
Yep.
Okay, sir, we have a question from Keshav. He wants to know how can one make career in fintech startups, considering so many startups are emerging.
Good question. I think fintech startups. So I think, see, first getting into a startup is again a different, requires a bit of different mindset. So see, as freshers, I think you will have to practically, I would say, you will have to apply to a lot of things. And even in startups, one of the things which I've seen works is see in any startup there is there'll be a lot of moving parts, right? The approach of working is very different in say a startup or compared to a say well established FMCG company. In FMCG company, everything is will be sort of process oriented. There will be SOPs for everything. In startups, you will be expected to work on the processes, to define the boundaries is very less in startup. So whenever you're approaching a startup, don't think yourself as only a finance. Think yourself on as an entrepreneur because that's what a startup requires, right? So for you to get into a startup, I think I would say again for startups specifically, networking has helped. Some of the opportunities which come up in startups is more. I think consultants have mandates, but more than less, the startups hire talent more by networking versus using consultants. Consultants are generally used by big FMCG companies, well-established companies where they have a set process for everything. Startup is where I don't think even that process is clearly defined. So you will find folks getting through into startups through network, through direct being approached by HR. So ensure that you have that experience and ensure that you have a bit of exposure. See, not necessarily everything comes with job. What is your understanding of a fintech startup? Write a article on LinkedIn. Be persistent with it. Also small thing matters. I would say that shows your passion and your understanding of startups, and you can use it as a conversation point when you are having discussions with anyone, and develop that network.
Uh, so next, Maria, I guess, has a question. So here she is telling that I completed my MBA in 2015 and have no work experience. Can you give some tips to impress the interviewer that having no work experience should be a drawback, or what one can work on regarding technical skills to have an edge over the others?
Okay, so so you have completed your MBA in 2018,
2015.
15. Okay. See, I think one of the things, so as I heard a previous comment, right? So I keep hearing this comparison between CS and MBA. So one of the things which uh, I think for you is to have demonstrate that uh, you're sort of updated, or you have the technical understanding or core domain knowledge. Start to so some of the things which I suggested: have a company go through its say even financial accounts, try to make sense of a business, uh, work it as a case study. I would suggest work it as a case study. Reach out to peers within a company. See, I think one good thing about the MBAs is you have a peer network, right? Whatever college you have, so all have say alumni sort of network. So reach out to some of the peers who are alumni from your college, uh, just just for the fact that gain an understanding with them, and that should be a starting point. Reach out to them and then gain your confidence in terms of your core finance domain knowledge. I don't think it is too big a break. 15 to now, I don't see it as a deal breaker or anything like that. So I have confidence that 3 years is nothing. Yeah. So we have had over my 15 years, I've had two folks who have had 2 years break for various reasons, and it doesn't matter. Frankly, as long as they are fit for the role, you will get hired. Maybe, and given that you don't have experience, it will be a say analyst sort of role and stuff like that. So approach the right understanding. Get back your knowledge and work on the alumni network and stuff like that.
So, Shesha, one question we have from the Facebook zone. So, what are the skill sets where we are looking for when the FMCG company is hiring us, especially in the financial statement analysis? Or is there any other metrics analysis which we need to see?
So one thing, I think, see, skill sets. If you talk about, say, from an analytical standpoint, uh, so one of the things is to, and let me tell you the kind of analysis which you will need to do as a finance analyst of a company. So, for example, there could be a case where you will decide to see what is the ROI on a particular campaign, right? Or what should be the pricing be? So, for example, there is a new product which you want to launch. You can either price it at X or price it at Y. What is the volume which you will gain at X? What is the volume which you will gain at Y? Why do you think? How will the consumer value you? So there will be range of things like this, right? And it is always a multifunctional exercise where you need to interact with marketing and trade and stuff like that. So one is that piece. For that, I would say the amount of technical knowledge we have as CAs, as CPAs, and CMAs, I think is very high. You might not be required to use that level of technical knowledge. What you would want is to gain business understanding. From analysis of a financial statement standpoint, I would say have read all these reports from investment houses. Have take a list. So my best would be to take a company like Unilever, see the financial statements, analyze it, and see the quarterly presentation made by the MD of during their quarterly presentations. You will find that they present strategy, they present a view on what went well, what did not go well, what was the NPD, and you will be able to see that reflection in the financial statements. So, what is the quarterly growth? How has COVID say affected their quarterly growth? Which sector? So they will have a range of sectors, right, within that company. So which has increased, which has impacted negatively. So there is a range of analysis which you can do, and which the insights they will also share. They would have done that and they would be sharing it and develop a point of view on that. Don't see financials only from a number standpoint. See it from a business angle. Then you will have, so see, all, even the accounting standards etc. has a business angle to it. Understand that intent and then view a financial statement and be more forward looking. So you can also do a good thing where you can take a, you can have an expectation as to what it will do next quarter. Build, see, all the budgets etc. which we work in companies is all forward looking. Financial statement will be, is history, right? What is more important is what will happen next quarter. Will my sales increase? What will be the profits and stuff like that? So have a point of view on that, and that always helps. So if you are able to have an insight saying because of XYZ reason you feel that, say, profit will grow much lower than top line for the next quarter, then you're onto something. So make such, uh, try to arrive at such conclusions and then see whether it makes sense or not, because these are some of the things which will help you when you are in the company.
Okay, I think we are done with the questions. Sangeeta, do we have anything in the Q&A window or the chat window?
Yes, so we have one question from Purvi.
Okay.
What is the hiring scenario in the FMCG industry at the moment, given the COVID impact?
So, see, I think uh, COVID is a crisis, right? So, hiring has. If I were to talk about overall industry, so one, I would not want to comment on the overall FMCG industry, but some of the trends which I think I've seen is from an investment standpoint, FMCG. There are many companies which have slowed down their investment. So, for example, if they were to invest in, say, in a plant that has, maybe they have postponed it till things get better. So, one is that. So, driven by that, I think new roles or expansion of roles which is driven by scale, increasing scale of the business, that has definitely, I think, slowed down. But with all the replacement roles are are being hired. So in many companies, so if there is any movement which is happening, so they are not eliminating that role. I think more companies than not, they are filling that roles back. So in that sense, there continues to be, say, hiring. And I think this is a temporary sort of phase. And see, not necessarily all FMCGs are doing bad as well. And let me tell you, so there are many FMCGs, given this crisis situation, are doing good. So many food, say FMCGs, if you have a retail product, given that the home consumption, say, has increased, the sales are on an increase. So they are actually growing. So they would be hiring. So they are ramping up their capacities. They are going for it. So there is increase of roles there as well. But overall, broadly, I would say that new roles, there is a slight decreasing trend, but the filling of open positions are happening. That's what I would say.
So I think one question we have is any suggestion for job search is fine, but as you said, one should have a mentor in the industry. So Hitesh Gupta is asking, will you accept and become my mentor as I'm having experience in consumer goods slash FMCG and advise me further? Thanks. What's your
See,
take?
yeah. I would be more than open. So any folks who want to reach out to me, please reach out to me. I can reach out to me on LinkedIn. We can connect offline. We can have a discussion. And why me? So there would be many leaders who would be very open to interact with fresh or young finance professional. So Hitesh, it's yes, you can reach out to me and we can have a discussion.
So I think we are done with it, Sheshadri. So it's almost now 5:30. So we started on time. We ended on time. We didn't took much of your time as well. So it was a great and fantastic session, giving an overall picture. And being a full-fledged professional is what is my takeaway from this session. I think it has huge pointers for everyone. Being not only having a mentor, being aware, being vocal, seeing the bigger picture. Right. So this was one of the good sessions what we had from the personality development perspective also, not only apart from the finance. Thank you so much, Sheshadri. Over to you, Sangeeta, to just do a closure.
Yeah, with the yes, sir. With the entire Simandhar family, once again, like to thank you that you took out your time and shared your knowledge with us. It was great having you, sir, with us. Thank you.
Thanks, Shipal. Thanks for the opportunity. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, sir.